What if China attacks Taiwan? One of the biggest geopolitical questions in the entire world right now is the future of China and how they will continue to impact the world stage, particularly in regards to their relationship with Taiwan. With government officials in Taiwan recently being quoted as saying that a full-scale invasion from China could be easily possible as early as 2025, and with tensions currently at their highest point in 40 years, this is a question that's on everybody's minds, and could just be one of the biggest events of this entire decade if an attack ever came to pass. China and Taiwan have a very complicated history, one that's the basis for their fractured and stressed relationship in the modern era. After being returned as a province to China after Japan's surrender at the end of the Second World War, Taiwan was then fled to by the Republic of China leadership following the Chinese Civil War and the ascension of the Chinese Communist Party as the government in mainland China. Ever since, Taiwan has settled into a democratic government under the name of the Republic of China, seeing itself as a mostly independent state, whereas the Chinese Communist Party maintains a position known as the One China principle, the idea that Taiwan's semi-independence is just temporary, that all of China is one inalienable whole, and that someday Taiwan will rejoin the Chinese collective. This stance has been awkward over the years for Taiwan, as politically some citizens favor closer diplomatic ties with China, while others yearn for Taiwan to be its own independent nation with its own unique culture. Despite this, to appease China, most nations do not have any official diplomatic ties with Taiwan, instead only communicating with mainland China to maintain the One China position. Despite this, countries like the United States do have some unofficial communication and even a policy to provide Taiwan with weaponry to defend itself against any foreign invaders, as a holdover from the Cold War when the United States was especially interested in preventing the spread of communism and USSR allies across the globe. In recent years, China has particularly stepped up their aggression when it comes to Taiwan's borders and has made multiple statements about China's reunification potentially having to happen through force. In 2018, China began demanding that any international partners trading with Taiwan had to refer to it as being part of China. Since then, China's military drills off the coast of Taiwan and excursions into Taiwanese airspace have been becoming more and more common, with the first half of 2021 having nearly as many reports of Chinese aircraft in the area as the entirety of 2020. Furthermore, while reports of aircraft would typically only mean surveillance-style planes, the reports within the last year or so have all seen the majority of their planes now be fighter jets, with the occasional bomber being tested as well. Now, this is likely posturing and training exercises being conducted on China's part, rather than actual attempts at reaching the island of Taiwan, but it does show that China is getting bolder and bolder with just how much pressure it feels it can put up against Taiwan's borders, and in particular, just how much Chinese forces are capable of navigating beyond the median line between Taiwan and China proper. If China did decide to launch a full invasion of Taiwan, what would that look like? Well, initially things would appear to be very dire for the Taiwanese side of the conflict. China currently has over 2,185,000 active military members, the largest in the world ahead of both India and the United States, and a number that's literally 10 times the size of Taiwan's active military. China is also one of the 9 countries worldwide to possess nuclear weapons, with over 250 warheads and bombs within their arsenal. Luckily, the chance of China utilizing any form of nuclear weaponry during an invasion of Taiwan is very low, as its proximity to the mainland would likely mean unprecedented damage to their own country, along with all of the dangers of nuclear escalation from the rest of the world. Instead, China would likely rely on its massive amount of air, land, and naval forces to attempt to seize Taiwan and its capital city of Taipei directly. However, this would be a lot easier said than done. Taiwan's military might be only 10% of the size of China's, but they've been training since the very formation of Taiwan as an independent state for this exact scenario. some sort of attack from the Chinese mainland. Defending against an invasion gives you some inherent advantages compared to trying to invade and attack a new location. The defending army will have the home field advantage, with much more knowledge about the area and the best locations to stage a defensive position, or where to mislead the enemy into attacking. Taiwan's weaponry capabilities are also beyond what one would expect from an island with the population of Australia. Although the United States might not recognize Taiwan as a fully independent country, it's still written into US law that weapons must be exchanged with Taiwan so that they can defend themselves from outside threats. Thus, any Chinese attack on Taiwan would find themselves going up against artillery units, tanks, and machine guns all made in America, even if they were still only being used by the Taiwanese military. That being said, if China did fully cross the line and commit to an invasion of Taiwan, the United States and indeed the rest of the world might not be able to sit back. Both of the most recent presidents of the United States, Donald Trump and Joe Biden, have adopted a stronger stance against China compared to their predecessors due to China's increasing growth on the world stage, and an outright attack by China on a democracy right at their doorstep would be big news for the rest of the world. The US government in 2021 has taken the stance of telling China to back down from its posturing to Taiwan, with a White House spokesperson saying, "We urge Beijing to cease its military, diplomatic, and economic pressure and coercion against Taiwan. We have an abiding interest in peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait. That is why we'll continue to assist Taiwan in maintaining a sufficient self-defense capability." If China refuses to back down and fully commits to attacking Taiwan, the US would have no choice but to live up to this threatening reminder and supply even more defenses to Taiwan, which in the case of a full invasion, could mean sending US troops themselves. The enormity of both the United States and China and their status as two of the biggest global superpowers means that a direct military versus military confrontation between the two of them would be disastrous. The Cold War was cold for a reason, after all. Instead, this situation with Taiwan would give both countries a proxy location and reasoning for finally directly competing with one another. To make things even more complicated, Britain and Australia both recently formed a new military alliance with the United States specifically to try and counter Chinese influence throughout the global stage. If the US was obligated to help defend Taiwan while it was being invaded, the situation could risk snowballing into a geopolitical nightmare, with multiple countries forced to take sides among the many involved superpowers. There would be so many variables at play that trying to determine the most likely would be entirely foolish. This could mean a brief rise in tensions in countries before everyone stands down, it could mean the escalation of current tensions into a second Cold War, or it could mean the start of the World War III that we've all been trying to avoid for so many decades. No matter what the future holds, all of us here at Life's Biggest Questions obviously want peace to win in the end. So we'll all be crossing our fingers and hoping that calmer and cooler heads will prevail, and China and Taiwan will be able to find a solution that leaves both groups satisfied and content without the threat of conflict hanging over both their heads. But until that day comes, we'll keep asking the big questions that keep you up at night. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and let us know what type of video you'd like to see from us next. I've been Josh Busker, and this has been Life's Biggest Questions.